YouTube, what's good? Back with another one to explore next-gen consoles. Xbox Prime, PlayStation 6. Now we have this Grand Theft Auto trailer right here that people have pointed out have a PlayStation controller and a Wi-Fi router, which a lot of people are saying is a PlayStation 6, which it could be. Why put it in there with the PlayStation controller? Now, Apple has been known to use white as a flagship product, the white color. Now, Sony is doing that. Their cases are white. Their PS5 is white. And there's been talk that Sony is trying to emulate Apple. So will this be a PlayStation 6? It could be. Now, what's under this hood? What's going to be in there? Let's break down PS5. It has 16 gigabytes of RAM. It has about 10 teraflops, and it has a 2070 GPU equivalent, right? A PS5 Pro has 18 gigabytes of RAM, 16.7 teraflops, and the same CPU. However, that memory and those teraflops do push the CPU to its limits and help it run the games better. And it also has a 3060 a slightly better than 3060 graphics card equivalent. Now people can say, oh yeah, well it's a this, that, TI, whatever. Most people don't know that terminology. Most people know 2070, 3060, 4090, and the new 5090. That's what people know. People don't know about all the technical aspects and side of things. Most gamers, I feel, don't have a PC. I think console gaming, when you combine Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox, console gaming is still bigger than PC gaming as a whole. Now, will this thing have a 4090 in it? It could be, because it could have the same 3060, but Xbox Prime, are they going to have a 3060 equivalent or somewhere less than a 4090? And does that mean PlayStation 6 is going to be just a PS5 Pro with a better CPU and maybe some more bells and whistles? It could be, but I don't see that happening because every generation the graphics have gone up. So a 4090 would be the obvious way to go. And some people say, well, this thing's going to be $1,000, and that could be true. But let's talk about how they're going to mitigate some of these costs and what exactly is going to happen in the industry, possible scenarios and outcomes of what I see happening in the industry, right? Now, first of all, just like the PS5 Pro, they can make it a diskless PS6 and make it an add-on disk drive for $80 or whatever. And this way it'll cut cost for both consumer and manufacturer. They can also put a low amount of storage, like, I don't know, 825 gigabytes, which seems extremely low for this gen and next gen because the games are getting bigger. But as far as keeping costs down, we got to factor that in, them trying to keep costs down. And they could say, well, if you don't like it, you can delete your games, or you can buy an SSD card and add on storage. They go anywhere from 1 to 2, 4, and up to 8 terabytes. So they might just go that route to keep costs down and maybe sell it for $900, $800 even. Who knows? I'm going to go with $900. I'm going to go with $900 and see what happens. Now, Xbox handheld. They say that's going to be the next thing, and also an Xbox Prime, which is code word. I think they should keep that name for the console because Xbox Prime sounds tight. I'm not going to lie. That sounds great for a console. Way better than a Series S, Series X, Xbox 360, Xbox One. Xbox Prime is the best name they could choose so far out of all these consoles. Stick with that. Now, I have to talk about this because it's going to lead to part of the scenario that's formulating in my head, okay? Xbox exclusives are either digital only, or the ones that they do put on a disc are just keys. They've done this with Doom. They've done this with Indiana. I gave Indiana Jones a pass because it was 135 gigabytes and the disc only holds 100 gigabytes. But Doom could fit on there and it's just a key. You need internet to download it. As to where the games that I have, you don't need internet to download it because there's code on the disc. It's preserved, which all of Sony games are. And then you have Starfield that has like 45 gigabytes on the disc and then like 50 gigabytes download. This is a problem for collectors who I see. Any collectors on Xbox who want to continue collecting are probably going to switch to PlayStation. Same with Nintendo. Even though Nintendo games are on the cart, and we got Cyberpunk on the cart and Daemon Machina on the cart, most of these third-party games are download key cards. The majority of what I'm seeing is a download. And people are not feeling that. And as a collector, I'm not feeling that myself. So I see collectors shifting to PlayStation, and some people say, well, you're old and there's nobody collecting, and that's not true. 22% of PlayStation 5 sales in 2024 were on a disc. 22%. So even if it goes down to 20% this year, that's still a powerhouse. We are still a force to be reckoned with. That is money in Sony's pocket. So I see collectors gravitating towards PlayStation. On top of that, well, before we go to on top of that, for Sony's pluses, I want to actually give, I don't want to say praise, but I want to give a W to Xbox and what Phil is trying to do, right? He is trying to make the Xbox into a casual behemoth. They are buying up publishers and they are the number one publisher in the world. That's undisputed, right? And they have Call of Duty on Game Pass. They have Madden on Game Pass. They have NBA 2K on Game Pass. And they have FIFA on Game Pass. So Call of Duty and sports, and then free games like Fortnite. These are the biggest games that they're all on Game Pass. They're all free. Well, free, $20 a month to rent for the top tier experience. If, and I'm putting this with a huge capital if, huge capital I, huge capital F, if Microsoft puts GTA 6 on Game Pass, I can see a lot of casuals switching over to Xbox from PS4 and Xbox One next year and the following year. And I can see them selling another 10 million Xboxes easy. All to casuals. Maybe even more. Maybe even 15 million. And so what is it? They're like 30 million sales, 15 million discless Series S's, and 15 million Series X that can take a disc. And I think they have a real opportunity here. People say, well, they can't afford that. Well, they just afforded $100 billion worth of acquisitions. People say, well, Rockstar's not going to do it because they can sell more copies. Not to Xbox owners. There's only 30 million Xbox owners, and they're not going to sell no 30 million games to Xbox owners. They might sell 10 million, but what's to stop Microsoft from saying, you know what, here's a $3 billion advancement. We're going to put this on Game Pass, and you can just sell your game on PC and PlayStation. You know, what's to stop Microsoft from hashing out that deal? Because clearly they're just trying to sell Game Pass at this point, and that's all they care about. And selling games on PC and PlayStation, and selling their Game Pass. They raised the cost of the Xbox to $600, $730 for a 2 terabyte. And what is it? I think $400 for the Series S. So those consoles already are only selling 2 million, 1 million Series S's and 1 million Series X's per year at this point. So it's probably going to be half that, if that, from here on out, unless they lower it again, which that's always a possibility. They could lower the price. On Sony's plus side, while PS6 might lose a lot of customers because, for one, PS6 is going to be overpriced. I don't want to say overpriced, but it's not going to be cheap. It's not overpriced, but it's not going to be cheap. Okay? But on the plus side, while casuals may go over to Xbox next gen because of Game Pass and what they're trying to do, I think there's still some demographics that can go to PlayStation, like gamers, for one, who want games. Sony's has strong second-party support where they fund third-party developers and they make the game exclusive to PlayStation, like Stellar Blade, Lost Soul Aside, Death Stranding 2, Rise of the Ronin, Helldivers 2. The list goes on and on and on. Final Fantasy 7. And people say, well, these are going to Xbox. These are going to Xbox. Silent Hill 2, these are going to Xbox. Except I never see them go to Xbox, except for Death Stranding and Kena Kids Cartoon. I don't ever see these games going to Xbox. It's almost 5 years. In November will be 5 years. So you can say, well, these are just timed exclusives all you want. But I'm not seeing that. And you can debate and say, well, those are PC games too. Well, so what? They're console exclusive. Most people are still gaming on a console. Out of if you combine Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation, it's well over 100 million gamers still on a console that aren't on a PC. I know a lot of people like to talk big and say, I'm on a PC and a Nintendo and an Xbox and a PlayStation and a PS5 Pro and 3 PlayStations. But I'm gonna let you know right now, you're a vocal, loud minority if you're saying that. Most people are not on a PC. Even if PC does have a big base, it's not as big as PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo combined. Now, I know some of those consoles overlap. A lot of us have a PS5 and a Nintendo, or an Xbox and a Nintendo, or even a PS5 and an Xbox. And some of us have PC and PS5 and whatever. But I'm telling you right now, the majority of gamers have 1 or 2 consoles and not a PC. So console exclusivity is still a thing for PlayStation. Xbox, not so much. They're porting games 1 or 2 at a time. They just announced Gears Remastered, which is rumored to get a physical disc on PlayStation and not a physical disc on Xbox, for those collectors out there. So PlayStation also has another demographic they can appeal to, and that's parents and young adults, teenage boys, 13 to 17, and even kids. Now, yes, Nintendo has that grasp on that audience. However, Nintendo is no longer $300. Nintendo's now $500, and parents, as well as casuals, are looking at that number, at that price tag. And when you factor in the camera, a Pro controller, 2 games, the new type of SD card that you need. And now we're talking $850 plus tax. USD, I'm from America. And that's a huge turnoff, even to me. And I want the thing just for Metroid Prime 4 and Mario Kart. I'm not big on Donkey Kong and Mario and Zelda. But that price tag even has me stepping back and saying, not right now. Maybe in the future. And I think the average consumer, if you think that the average consumer is looking at that price tag and saying, no big deal, then you're just out of touch. 110%. And then the games are 70 to 80. Kirby is a 2022 game, remastered, $80. Breath of the Wild, $80. So what if there's DLC? That's a $10 upgrade. Should be $10. And then you got Donkey Kong, $70. That's a low-end exclusive. With the high-end exclusive Mario Kart being $80. So that's exactly what they're doing on PlayStation. You got Astrobot is $60, right? And then Yote, Ghost of Yote is $70. So on PlayStation, you got low-end games at $60, high-end games at $70. On Nintendo, you got low-end games at $70, high-end games at $80. And that's going to be the norm. I would be surprised, I would be shocked if Metroid Prime 4 was only $60. And so I don't think, personally, even though pre-order sales are strong, Nintendo has a fan base, hardcore fan base of maybe 20 million who will buy this thing and sell out pre-orders and look real strong in the first year or two. But after that first and second year go by, I see sales starting to wane. Because the average consumer is not going to want a $500 Nintendo with high-priced accessories. An $85 Pro controller, that's $100. That's $90 after tax. You might as well say that's $100 after you get your coffee. You get your coffee and your controller. Joy-Cons are 90 or 95. It's $100 to replace your Joy-Cons or to get an extra set. Games are up to 80 plus tax, $85. So you're dropping basically a $100 bill on every purchase. And you'll have $10 left in your wallet. So while that might be okay for you, and you can call people broke and call people names and belittle poor people all you want online, but the fact is, millions, tens of millions of gamers are living paycheck to paycheck and struggling to pay their bills. People have real world bills like rent, car payments, filling their gas tank and their refrigerators up. Buying diapers is super expensive. I would know, I have kids. One of them is still in diapers. And diapers are expensive, man. Now, how can Sony get those customers other than price is high for Nintendo? Well, Sony, their response right after the Nintendo Direct, Nintendo Switch 2 Direct came out, the next day I saw an Astrobot bundle for $399 and $450 for the disc drive. And I'm still seeing $450 disc drive PS5s. Yes, they do sell $500 models, but if you scroll around in the websites for your local retailers, you can find $450 brand new, not refurbished, brand new in the box, right? And what else can Sony do? They have Astrobot, they have Ratchet and Clank. They're not huge sellers, but they are kind of mascot kiddie games that can somewhat compete with Mario. I don't want to say that because, come on, Mario is a powerhouse. But they also have Spider-Man, which is a huge IP for teenagers and even adults. They also have Wolverine coming out. And don't underestimate Wolverine. They say it's going to be M-rated. So something for the adults, and kids love Wolverine. Let's be honest. And word is that Insomniac will finish the PS5 era with the Wolverine sequel and call it X-Men. Those are huge. I'd say, hey, buy Batman and maybe even Sonic, and you have a Nintendo competitor. Now, what else can Sony do to entice customers, to push them from 80 million shipped, 70 million sold, to 110 million shipped and 100 million sold? How can they entice customers? How can they entice parents and kids? Well, for one, they can just get rid of the disk drive, stop manufacturing that altogether, and just sell the digital model with the disk drive sold separately for $80. I'm not advocating for a digital future at all, but this will help Sony cut cost for them as the manufacturer, and also cut cost for consumer, and say, hey, our PS5 is $399, or you can go get a $450 Switch or $500 Switch bundle with expensive everything that costs more. Everything costs more. And this is why I do not see games going up in price for Sony games. They're going to stay at 60 to 70, just like we've seen. Mind's Eye is 60. Exclusives like Lost Soul is $60. Ghost of Yotei is 70. Death Stranding 2 is 70. This is what 2025 is. And I see in the future, beyond 2025, I see the same business model, because they don't want to lose customers. I've also seen that Sony is going to be manufacturing the PS5 in America, so 0 tariffs. And as far as tariffs with China, they're down to 10% now. So there's really no issue concerning tariffs at the moment for the next at least 90 days and probably into the future. Is this how everything will turn out? Maybe, maybe not. Now, lastly, I want to talk about Steam partnership with Microsoft. Is this going to happen? It could be. We could see Steam on Xbox. However, this will only cause Sony to make true exclusivity on their console, as they will not only stop porting their new games to Steam, but they will also pull their old games from Steam. And for people that say no they won't or no they can't, that is a revocable digital license. You do not own it. They can do whatever they want. They haven't even sold it to you yet. They can absolutely pull that from the store. All the Ragnaroks and Spider-Mans, they can absolutely pull that from the store, 100%. Now, why would they do this? Why would they not want more revenue from PC sales and Xbox sales? It's simple. They need to sell a PlayStation 6. They need to maintain their ecosystem, because they're not going to be like, yeah, we're just going to sell 10 million PlayStation 6 and Xbox can have everything. They can have all our exclusives. They can have Steam library. They can have their own library, and we're screwed. Sony is not going to do that. They've been in this business 30 years, and they're not going to do that. So let me know in the comments below, what do you agree with? What don't you agree with? I know that's a lot to unpack. It's very opinionated, but this is what I see how the future of gaming is going. One last thing I want to touch on. I do believe a PlayStation VR 3 will be made. I do believe that, for PS6. And it won't come out till 2030 or 2031 or 2032. I do believe that Sony does care about VR, and maybe they're not pushing it as much as they should, but I do believe that it is going to continue on forward. Till next time.